So for the high tension pigeon stretch, you're going to get into a 90-90 position, front and back knee like this, 90 degrees, back foot, knee and front foot kind of all in a straight line. Then all I want you to think about is we're going to focus on this front knee here. So you're going to get into a position where you think your belly button is getting closer to your knee and kind of lean into it just to the point where you feel like your hip is stretching. Make sure your back isn't doing any of the work here, and then get the belly button closer to the knee. Once you get about as far as you feel you can get there, I want you to actively think like you're trying to lift your tailbone up and try to get your tailbone off the floor to get a really, really deep stretch in the back of the hip of this front knee. And you're just going to kind of hang out there, trying to get that tension development. So tailbone comes up off the floor, belly button goes towards the knee, and you're just leaning into it till you feel like you're at the end of your available range of motion and just hanging out there. Now while you're there, I want you to also think about taking your knee and driving it down into the floor, generating tension in an increasing manner. So you can just think like 20% effort, then ramp it up and go to a 40% effort, then ramp it up even further, go to 60% effort. And by the time you get to 80% effort, you're pretty much shaking because the tension is so great. Now I want you to hang out there for about a 10-second burst. Then when you're going to release tension here, release tension from your tailbone, stay in that bottom position, and then try to get a little bit further into it, thinking belly button towards the knee, and then same thing, tension, create the tailbone driving up, push the knee into the ground, and then ramp up the tension, going from 20% to 40 to 60 to 80 to 100% effort. For the 90-90 hip internal rotator, we're going to work on this back hip, so foot, knee, foot, all in a straight line, knees at 90 degrees, knees at 90 degrees. Get upright as tall as you can get, trying not to lean onto your hand to support. And once you get up to that point, turn your torso so you're trying to get your sternum to line up with your knee and try to get your sit bone flat to the floor, or at least as close as you can. And then just hang out there, breathing, trying to create tension, trying to create pull into that position as much as it feels comfortable. If it starts hurting or if you're feeling pain with it, back out of it just a little bit, but get as close to that edge as you can possibly get. Once you've worked on getting that rotation, you can take some pressure off by just kind of rotating away from it, but then try to get back into it again and see if you can push a little bit further by getting your sternum to rotate towards your knee even further. Once you've done that 2 or 3 times, set up so that your chest is lining up with your front knee, belly button's nice and tall, and then try to lift the back foot off the ground using the hip to rotate to try to create that drive. Brace through your abs, get that foot up, and then use that graded tension where you're trying to really ramp up into it as hard as you can. The tactical frog, you're going to go knees on the ground, wide as you can. Start off by having your feet flat on the ground. You can have your feet towards each other or away, it doesn't matter where, it's wherever's comfortable for you. Brace your abs, get your back straight, and then try to press back with your hands on the ground, trying to push yourself back into your hips as far as you can get. Once you're back into that position, you can start working with gradually opening your knees wider. Same thing, pressing back and thinking also about pushing your knees apart from each other, trying to really get down into that stretch. Once you're able to do that, you can come down to your elbows and do the same thing where you press back into your hips, push your knees apart, and try to create some separation. From there, if you want to, you could come forward and back and do kind of like a rocking stretch to work on driving into the hips a little bit further and getting as much stretch into them as you can. After you've done that 2 or 3 times, what I want you to start thinking about is getting 1 foot at a time to lift up off the ground into internal rotation, trying to own that position, and then getting the other side to lift up off the ground in a similar manner.